welcome. It is week 2 of the NFL, and this is Bankster Dfs, NFL Live Before Lock. My name is Doug Shane at Bankster17 over on Twitter, joined by Sean Goodwin. How's Sean Goodwin at big number 55? I'm thrown off because Good is not here. Usually it's Michael Gudadero, but he's actually just down the road for me about 15 minutes, and in another world and another time, he'd be hanging out here, but he just was at a concert last night or something. So, he's indisposed, and so we get the dirty slot himself, Sean Goodwin, joining us this morning. Good morning, Sean. Hope all is well. But before I hear from you, I've got promos to do. This is Bankster DFS, NFL Week 2, live before lock. If you are not currently a member of DFS and you're like, what's Bankster DFS all about? Well, here it is. We cover everything daily fantasy sports, all the major sports, all the niche sports, all the college sports. Our Slack chat has a number of bonus channels, including one for Prize Picks DFS, with whom we have a partnership. You get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100 when you deposit using the promo code Bankster. We'll take a look at Prize Picks later on today. You also get daily player pools, Slack chat, and award-winning articles and analysis from FSWA award winners like myself and Jeff Kaminsky, and a host of other future FSWA award winners on Team Bankster. All that is for $3.99 per week, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. You can actually lower that effective cost by going with monthly or yearly subscriptions, and your price will never increase as long as you continue to keep your membership with us. You don't cancel, your price never goes up. Everything, all sports, all content, no hidden fees at banksterdfs.com. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Bankster17. And I just threw the promo up for the show you're watching now. Please make sure while you're here at our YouTube page, like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon. We do daily videos. We do training videos. And, of course, we do our live stream. Oh, that was a lot to say. Shawnee, that was way too much for me to say right now. I'm going to take a breather for a second and throw our link out to the rest of the world. Oh, if you are watching, please do not forget to throw some comments in the chat box. We are here to answer your questions. And we will make sure to get to those, depending upon if it's a cash or GPP section. We'll get to you guys in whatever section we're at. Shawnee, how you doing? How's life up in Canada? And what are we most looking forward to this week?
Hey, Dougie, hey, good to see you again, man. It's been too long.
It has.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be back, filling in for Mr. Gutadero, who was actually at his Dave Matthews concert last night. So actually, I'm sure he's feeling it this morning a little bit, but. Happy to be running co-pilot with you today and filling in for him. Yeah, it's Canada. What can you say? I mean, it's we're rolling up here and trying to stay safe like everybody else, and just excited to get after some week 2 football. It's gonna be I'm loving this slate. This is gonna be a barn burner, I think. Just all kinds of goodness everywhere. I mean, we'll get into it obviously, but lots of pivots we can make. There's lots of goodness today. I'm excited to get after it.
Should we even bother turning on the TV before 4 o'clock? All the big games are in the late window. I'm excited to talk about what's going to happen in this early window because I think there's going to be some leverage to have. Not that we should avoid that late window, but it's one of the best 4-game late window slates I've maybe ever seen. And I'm an old man. I've been watching football for 35, 36, 37 years now. And it's I don't know if I ever remember seeing a 4-game window quite like we're seeing on this slate. Every game is 50 point or more total. It's ridiculous.
It's nuts. It's the NFL. I mean, we give the NFL crap for a lot because they earn it, but the schedule this week, the schedule makers gave us a good week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for what they have in store. And I think that again, I think there's some leverage to be made. Sneaky way to play this week, and I'm stalling while my player pool increases in size. I had minimized it by accident. One of the real cool ways we can find some leverage on the is I said to play the early slate, but actually a lot of people, they're spending a lot of time researching these later 4 games. That's where a lot of the goodness is coming this week. Play the 9-game early slate over on DraftKings and FanDuel. Like, you get in there, play a smaller sized field, and play one of those games. We'll talk about that in our GPP set, but that's a really good way for you to get some leverage or to get some knowledge leverage, because a lot of people are focused on those late slates. Take a few minutes and look at some of those early games and play that early slate. Just play the 9-game early slate. Find something that's not the Rams, right? Because the Rams will probably be the most popular team on that slate. and go in a different direction. But that's for the GPP section. And right now, we're going to talk cash games on your screen. You should be able to see. Shawnee, can you see it? Is it there? Do we have our it made it this week. That's fantastic. We've got our cash pool in front of us. And as we do every single week, we're going to break down this cash pool, talk about what should be there, what shouldn't be there. I post the cash pool. I think it was posted Tuesday or Wednesday this week. And I've been editing throughout the week and changing where I'm going to play. And we've posted a number of videos on the YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon. But this is like the first time Sean and I have sat down and had a conversation about who should be in the pool. So we always start breaking down the quarterbacks. Listen, for me, until he's over $7,000, I'm not sure I'm ever going to play a quarterback in cash other than Jalen Hurts. I played him the last 4 weeks of last year, or the last 3 weeks. I'm not sure if he came in. No, I think he started the last 4 weeks. So 4 weeks I started him last year. I played him week 1. Yeah, last week we cashed very easily. He did what he was supposed to do: 60 yards on the ground, 260 in the air, 3 touchdowns. And he gets a San Francisco defense that just gave up a big game to Jared Goff. They're at home, Philadelphia. San Francisco's second game on the road, early start, East Coast. I don't think they're quite as impressive as people thought they might be. He's my cash game quarterback. I mean, if you're going to spend all the way up, and you kind of can this week because you don't have to spend up at running back or even all the way up at wide receiver. There's some value elsewhere. Kyler Murray's definitely in play. He's probably going to have the most raw points of quarterback this week. Maybe one of the guys in the Dallas LA game. Herbert, as you see, is in the pool. I do think he's got the easier matchup compared between him and Dak, though Dak should be fine. And you got Tyrod Taylor. If you absolutely needed for some reason to spend all the way down, Tyrod Taylor is a guy to look at just because he's like a poor man's Jalen Hurts. He's going to run. He's going to give you 30 to 40 yards on the ground. He had a good game through the year last week, 290 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He's going to probably have to throw against Cleveland, as you expect the Browns to take a big lead, and they're the heaviest favored team on the slate. But that just means more Tyrod doing Tyrod things. So I do think he is a mild cash play this week. Sean, what did I get right? What did I get wrong? What can we do differently? How do we feel about this quarterback cash game pool?
Yeah, Kyler Murray is a video game unto himself, but you're paying a premium for 8,200, and Jalen Hurts, is basically a poor man's Kyler Murray essentially at this point, right? And you're getting a $1,700 price discount on the same skill set, the same type scenario. So, I mean, in cash, that's the move all day long. I mean, we're not looking to finish first, right? We're looking to finish in the top half. We're just looking to cash. That's it's the cash versus GPP. We ain't trying to win, just trying to cash. So I like Jalen Hurts. I mean, Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, I mean, I expect Cleveland to be out to a huge lead today at some point.
What's up, Homer?
Tyrod, you would think, is going to have to chuck it, right? I mean, the Cleveland isn't Jacksonville, right? So at $5,500, and Tyrod is the old man version, so to speak, maybe of Kyler Murray, right? He's he'll scramble. He'll probably be having to scramble, I would imagine. So, maybe 30, 40 yards on the ground, and he's going to have to chuck it probably 30 times. Yeah, watch that counter.
Listen, I got a Jets counter when Buda's with me, so I got to have the Browns counter when you're with me.
Yeah, I like that for.
Is there anyone that we're missing? Is there someone else that's in cash consideration before those 4 guys? I suppose you could make the argument for Prescott, though. I think Herbert $100 cheaper going up against boys, whereas Prescott's on the road. It has to go up against a better Chargers defense than the Cowboys defense is. Outside of that, is there a name we should be looking at? Like, is Baker playable in cash? Is Burrow? Is any of these lower price quarterbacks? Are any of them in play, or are we pretty well locked into the group that I have on the screen now?
Yeah, you can't go there in cash just for the fact I expect the Browns. I expect Chubb and Hunt. They should run the ball 40 times today, theoretically. I mean, really, that offensive line, which hopefully is intact. We'll check on that a little bit later when the inactives come out. But if the Browns got the best O line or top 3 O line in the league, they should have their way with Houston front 7. Like I think 200 yards is. I think between the two of them, 250 yards on the ground is in play today for the Browns. So Baker Mayfield.
So we're not going Baker in cash.
No, Baker might throw it. In a perfect scenario, Baker throws it maybe 15 times, tops.
Yeah.
right? Tops. So yeah,
Brandon jumps into chat. He's one of the writers at Team Bankster. Big college weekend for Brandon, by the way. Great job with your college stuff with you and Troy this weekend, Brandon. Wants to know if Josh Allen is in play. I'll weigh in a little bit on that one. I don't think he's in play for cash, simply because he's on the road against a fairly decent Dolphins defense. I know he tore up the Dolphins last year. He actually had a couple of really good games against Miami. I just don't think we need him in cash at his price point. Allen coming in at $7,200. That's $700 more than Jalen Hurts. In a tournament, yeah, I've got no problem running the Bills in a tournament, but in a cash game, I don't think we need to. Allen, I don't think he's going to be running as much as he used to. I think the Bills want to play it a little safe with him with the running game. And I like the Dolphins defense a little bit. I think the Dolphins have a fairly decent defense, and I don't love the matchup enough where I don't think he's safe enough in cash, but I do think he's a good tournament play. Are you considering Josh Allen at all, and Sean?
Me personally, no, I'm not. I love Josh Allen in GPPs. I have some Allen Diggs combo stacks, especially an underdog fantasy as well. Shout out to them. If you don't play underdog, you should get over there.
We do have underdog.
Yeah, no, I like where I think. I mean, if you're gonna get up to 7,500, I mean, for Josh Allen, I might try to find the 7 to get to Kyler Murray at that point, or take the Jalen Hurts at 65, or Tyrod Taylor. I mean, Josh Allen is sort of in that kind of no man's land price zone there.
Yeah. I asked more than anything simply because I have blinders on when it comes to Jalen Hurts. Like I've been locked on him every game he started because he profiles for exactly what I'm looking for in a cash quarterback. So I always like to get another opinion to make sure that I'm not just too focused on one guy. But it sounds like we're in agreement that Josh Allen probably not a cash game play this week.
No, and like you said, Buffalo does not want Allen running. I mean, they signed with that monster contract, so they're going to try to keep him, upright and clean. Unlike the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I want that rushing floor, and I don't feel we're going to get it necessarily with Josh Allen. He has the ability to do it. He's just not definitely going to do it the way Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has rushed for 60 yards or more in all but one of his career starts. So.
For sure.
To me, that including the one he got yanked early at the end of last year. It just makes sense. So moving on to running backs, we don't need to spend up at running back this weekend. By spend up, I mean over $7,000. There are options. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's always in play. Last week, McCaffrey was the highest scoring running back on the slate, despite not scoring a touchdown and not getting the 100-yard bonus for either rushing or receiving. His volume is so out of control that he was able to put up 27.7 DK points without hitting any of those numbers. Like, that's ridiculous. And so every week he's a good play, though. I have him more as a tournament play this week. I think his roster percentage is going to be quite low this week. So I'm more into McCaffrey as a tournament play, though I respect his ability in cash that he has to be. I mean, McCaffrey's on the slate and he's under 10.5. He's in the pool. Nick Chubb should have a monster week. I do have concerns about the passing game work for him, but I do think he's in cash simply because when the Cleveland Browns are favored by 7 or more points, Nick Chubb averages more than 100 yards a game, averages more than a touchdown a game. His touches per game go up, and they're just going to run all over. They're going to run all over Houston. Houston's defensive front line was terrible last year against the run, and now they lost J.J. Watt and other pieces to that defense. I don't see how Cleveland doesn't just run all over them, but I also think it's $700-800. That's kind of the top of where I'd want to pay for a Nick Chubb. I'm using him a ton in tournaments, even though I do think he'll be a little chalky. I don't have him in cash on DraftKings, at least. On FanDuel, where it's a half point per reception, and he's priced reasonably, I do have him as a cash play on FanDuel. But over on DraftKings, I'm not using him as a cash play, though I can understand if you did. The 3 running backs I'm really focused on for cash this week are Harris, Montgomery, and Carson. They should all see 20 touches. They should all get 3 to 5 targets in the passing game. They're all at home, and they're all favorites, and they're all they've got everything you're looking for in a running back. They've got the volume, the price, the touchdown equity. They're going to catch the passes. They're favorites at home, and they're not expensive. And when using those 3, you can go in and do a lot more with your lineup and not have to punt. You really don't have to punt anything other than defense and tight end this week. And I think this is a great week to do that because there's really no spend up options I love at those positions. So you can spend in the 6K range pretty much across the board everywhere else. If you did want to spend down, Elijah Mitchell, report came out just before we went on the air that he will get the bulk of the workload for the 49ers. He he was in my cash core to start the week. I have since pulled him from my cash core. I almost pulled him out of cash game consideration altogether because I just don't trust his usage. He had 0 targets last week, and Shanahan, you don't know what he could be doing. Sermon's going to be active most likely. I didn't see it, but if he really is going to get the bulk of the work, at 5K, he's back in the pool, but I don't think he's usable. I'm not using him in cash. He becomes more of a tournament play because Kenyon Drake is now going to be the start. Peyton Barber's the starter. But Kenyon Drake should get the work for the Raiders. John Gruden's an idiot. Kenyon Drake should see the majority of carries and the majority of snaps for the Raiders. In a game where they're going to have to throw, Peyton Barber is not receiving back. So Drake's going to see a lot of work against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. At $4,900, he's going to become the popular spend down option, which actually makes Mitchell now more of a contrarian GPP option. And where I was like, oh, I'm going to be 0% Mitchell in tournaments. Well, now I think I'm going to be 0% Mitchell in cash. And I think I'm actually going to start using him in tournaments because Drake has pulled a lot of the roster percentage off of Mitchell. And that's where live streams and videos and Slack chat and all that stuff becomes important, staying on top of the news, because a guy who was going to look to be mega chalk on Monday, who then became a guy you absolutely want to pivot off of in tournaments by Wednesday or Thursday, has now become back to a tournament play, a good tournament play at $5,000, given the fact that Drake has opened up that value. And I think that's where we can look to Mitchell. Okay, I've said a lot, Sean. I know we got to increase that counter, I'm sure, by 1, but talk to me about cash game running backs. What's your thoughts on the pool that I have? Am I missing anyone? Is there someone on here that shouldn't be here? And where are you looking at in cash personally?
Personally, I am going to roll out Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns, just in case you didn't know who he played for, the Cleveland Browns. Kenyon Drake, obviously, I think is going to be the popular go-to now. I think everyone is going to pivot there. I think, Elijah Mitchell, Mitchell there in GPPs. But for cash, I love Chris Carson, Chubb. Harris I think is going to be popular, but in cash, we don't really care about that. If Drake going to be what, 20%, 30%? What do we think? He's going to be, how popular is he going to be? But in cash, once again, we're just looking to cash. We're not looking to win, right? So, $4,900 allows us to spend up, get some stud receivers in there. I like David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery is going to have a monster game against Cincinnati. He catches. He does everything we want running back. Chubb, Hunt does cut into Nick Chubb a little bit. I just think this is such a smash spot. Kareem Hunt's totally in play today too. In a GPP, not cash, of course, but yeah, I'm personally running Chubb, and let me see what else did I run here. I got Chubb, and I got David Montgomery right as of now as my cash racks.
Yeah, I feel like David Montgomery's not getting enough hype this week. I think more people are on Carson, Chubb, and Harris as the cash game trio, or spending down to Mitchell or Drake for the third position, because we'd like to go through running backs in cash. And I don't think people are talking David Montgomery. I thought he was going to be a lot chalkier than he was, or than he's going to end up being. But Montgomery has been a guy who's going to get 16 to 20 carries and 3 to 4 targets. I know he only got 1 target week 1. He was a little nicked up throughout the game. Damian Williams got a little bit of work, and Damian Williams is a decent backup running back. He's a guy who can spell David Montgomery. I do think we're going to see that snap percentage go up for Montgomery. He wasn't in that 70 to 80 range where we like to see him, and I do think he gets closer to 75, 80% of the snaps this week. We have to remember, since Tariq Cohen went out injured in the beginning of last year, David Montgomery's seen 3 or more targets in all but 2 games. And he was a monster at the second half of last year. He was a top 10 running back at the end of last year, probably top 8. And the Bengals are not great against the run. Last week, Dalvin Cook had a touchdown, caught some passes, was put up over 20 DK points. I'll take 20 DK points out of Montgomery at his price, $6,100, 20 points. That's more than 3x. I think there's a little bit of upside there too. I think he's got multiple touchdown upside, and I like him. I like him in this spot more with Dalton as quarterback than Justin Fields, because I don't think there's as likely of a chance of Justin Fields stealing a touchdown at the goal line. Though I do think that there'll be packages run for Fields where he will get goal line looks. But I still think those goal line looks could come in the form of pitches and options. And decoy, and that helps Montgomery as well. But then up and down the field, Dalton's not running, whereas Fields might run and look to scramble a little bit more, and so I do think that helps Montgomery a little bit in this case. I would have loved to see Justin Fields get the start in this game. He would have been at $5,000 would have been an awesome cash game option. I probably would have used him over Hurts, but he is not, and so sucks to be us. All right, running back seems pretty cut and dry this week. I think if you're using a combination, I think most people are going to end up using a combination of those 4 bolted running backs, with the exception maybe of Montgomery, where they would go down to one of the 2 lower price running backs. I don't see a lot of roster percentage going to anyone outside of the 7 guys you see on the screen. I don't see Derrick Henry or Alvin Kamara or Jonathan Taylor or Joe Mixon or any of those kinds of guys carrying a large percentage in cash. They may be tournament plays, but I just don't think you're going to get a lot of cash exposure to those guys. Receiver, to me, was very cut and dry this week. I had 4 guys, essentially, in my personal pool, but I understand, depending upon how rosters are constructed and how you like to play, you may need to expand that pool a little bit. So, obviously, that's why we ended up with 8 guys in the pool. But it's a fairly tight pool. Usually I have a few more players than that, but to me, there are 4 guys that were just in a perfect position this week. Keenan Allen at $7,000 is just disrespected at that price, going up against the Cowboys, who can't stop anybody. Allen has had 10 or more targets and all but like 1 start with Herbert as the quarterback. He's going to be fine. He might not be as big of a downfield threat as Mike Williams, and he might not be a multiple touchdown threat the way that Javonte Adams is, but 10 catches for 100 yards is 23 fantasy points, and that's well within reason. 6 catches, 120 yards. There's upside to be had there, and this game has the highest combined total on the slate. So I do think getting exposure to this game is important, and I want to get it against the Dallas defense. Chris Godwin, which is the guy at $6,600, given his volume of targets, just seemed stupid, especially against a terrible Atlanta defense. I mean, we like Antonio Brown. Tom Brady likes Brown. Mike Evans is a really talented guy, but last week Chris Godwin saw more targets than Brown and Evans combined, and I don't see how that's going to change this week against Atlanta, who's terrible. I see Sean already licking his chops here too, because we're talking slot receivers, and I'll throw it to you in a second there, Shawnee. Cooper Kupp, $6,000 is stupid. Also, I looked at the prices this week and said, who are the dumb priced receiver? Where was DK stupid? And let's just play those guys. And Cooper Kupp, he's going to see 8 to 10 targets because he's a volume guy. Him and Matt Stafford have a rapport. The Colts just got burned repeatedly by the Seahawks last week. The Rams passing game is as good as the Seahawks. I think Stafford's fine. And Kupp's the guy he's going to go to. Does that mean Woods and Jackson and Jefferson won't have good games? They could, but Kupp is the guy who I think is going to bring you that floor. The other guy that I considered, I can't get up there this week in terms of price, was DeAndre Hopkins. Minnesota got thrown on pretty badly by the Bengals last week. Arizona looked fantastic on the road in Tennessee. Hopkins is going to get you 10 to 12 targets. He's going to get you 80 to 100 yards. He's definitely a touchdown threat. I just don't think we need to spend up that high, but if we are, he's the guy I'm looking to spend up with. And then, the other guys in the pool, Hunter Renfrow got a ton of targets in the game last week against Baltimore. The Steelers gave up a ton of targets to the slot receiver, Cole Beasley, last week for the Bills. I just think at his price point, 7, 8, 9 targets is well within reason. People really like Darren Waller, but Hunter Renfrow's probably the secondary option in that game. So I think that's important. And then, again, if you want some Dallas exposure, I think CeeDee Lamb's a little more cost effective than Cooper, but Cooper at 6,800 is not bad. Brandon Cooks is a guy who just gets a ton of targets. He's just better than people give him credit for. And at $5,900 in a game where they have to throw, I think it makes some sense. And Tim Patrick should get an increased target volume for Denver, and he's priced well, but I'm not going to use him much. I think his roster percentage is going to be too high, and I'm not using him in cash. I think KJ Hamler, who I know we're going to talk about in the GPP section, and Noah Fant are the guys you're going to want in that position for Denver for cash. Well, Fant for cash and Hamler for GPPs. Shawnee, I know that wide receiver is your thing. Talk to us about where we should be looking, and let's really focused on cash. Where should we be looking for a cash wide receiver this week? Is the pool right, the pool wrong? Who am I missing? What do you got for me? I'm sure the name Tyler Boyd will come out of your mouth at some point as well, because I know you so very well. Let's hear what you got.
Yeah, for me, I'm running Allen, Goodwin, and Kupp and cash. Those are my 3 receivers. That was probably the easiest decision of my cash lineup this week. Targets are king. The three of them I don't know, 30. I mean, what are we looking at? 35. Like, I mean, they're double-digit targets. Godwin, I hope Atlanta can at least keep it within range, at least in the second half. But if Tampa Bay does get up big, I think Godwin is going to be, basically the reason why they get up big. Tyler Lockett just shredded Indianapolis last week. Kenny Moore in the slot, not very good. Cooper Kupp and Stafford, they got something going. We saw it last week against the Bears. Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, he's like 13 targets from Herbert in the last 12 healthy games he's played. He's just a machine. He's just a target machine. I mean, honestly, he should be priced up probably where Nuck is. I think 7. I think is a bit of a deal for us. I mean, Hopkins is Hopkins, right? I mean, it's all day long. He's gonna whatever. But once again, cash we don't need to spend up there. Lots of options that are we're getting $1,000 discount to Allen all day long. I mean, and they get the same type ceiling, the same floor, right? I mean, Allen might actually see more targets than Murray did today, right? Just because Arizona might get up. I mean, that Dallas LA game, that's going to be all kinds of fantasy goodness. I think like that's going to be a barn burner. I can't wait for that game. But yeah, for me it was easy. Allen, Godwin, Kupp, and Cash. Renfro is now interesting to me. And for exactly what you said, with Jacobs out, Drake's a guy to me. Drake is not like Drake. I think Derek Carr's going to have to chuck it 35 times to keep up against Pittsburgh. And who's he going to throw to? Darren Waller and Hunter Renfro, right? He'll take his shots once in a while aside to Edwards. Ruggs is just a guy to me. So I could absolutely see going to Renfro and Cash. Having Renfro as one of your receivers does open it up somewhere else. Maybe you get that third higher end right back in. That's the beauty about it. There's many ways we can go with this. So, I love like you said, receiver was pretty cut and dry. I was immediately Allen, up and Godwin and move on for Cash.
Are there any other slot guys that you wrote up that could be in consideration that I didn't include here in the pool? Because I know I created the pool before.
Beasley.
You wrote the article.
Cole Beasley had 11 targets last week. He's 50. The problem with Kobe is 5,600. It's a little more than, but I mean, if it's going to be an interesting game there. I mean, Cole Beasley, I wrote up as a play in the dirty slot because he can eat Nick Needham's lunch for sure. The Bills shredded the Dolphins last year in the slot in the 2 games, especially Nick Needham. They had 8 catches for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns in the games. That wasn't all Beasley. That was Isaiah McKenzie and Gabriel Davis as well. But same as most teams, right? The slot cornerback is usually sort of the weak link in that secondary, right? And it's a place to exploit. I don't know if I would, like I said, 5,600. I mean, if he was under 5K, I'd be a little more inclined to look there. But beyond that, I think the usual, the 3 that I mentioned are the way to go in Cash.
Beasley's only 46 this week, not 56.
Oh, my bad. Oops.
That makes it more playable, I would say, right?
So actually, that is that's actually a big difference. $4,600. It definitely makes him in play then. Sure.
I don't want to add him to the pool. That's just because I don't like Cole Beasley. But you got
when you're getting down to your build and you're looking for that maybe third receiver and you're in that price range, Cole Beasley's an option for sure.
I understand the idea though. Using Cole Beasley instead of Tim Patrick, I think gives you like a better floor. Because I don't think Patrick is guaranteed anything. Because I use Patrick because I have him in the pool currently. Whereas I think Cole Beasley actually has a better target floor. That's probably a better option there.
A little safer floor, I think, with Beasley for sure.
I think the reason I had Patrick in there more than anything was because I think his roster percentage is going to be pretty high. So I don't think he'll kill you if he doesn't do well. But I also think you don't need to spend that low anyway. Hopefully what we're showing and what we're able to see here is that this week, Hurts is 6,500, Harris 63, Montgomery 61, Carson 61. Allen 7,000, Goodwin 66, Kupp 6,000, and they all fit. Like you don't need to spend down at any of the big positions this week if you don't want to. Usually we're scrambling for a punt. Last week we used like Rondale Moore or Elijah Moore, Javonte Williams or whoever you're using as a spend down. You don't need to do that this week. Marquez Callaway, like that. You don't have to do that this week. They're there. But I don't think we have to do that. I spent a lot more time looking at the higher priced guys. So I think that's important. Now, Big Matt's come into chat and he has a question and he wants to know if he should come off Najee Harris or Chris Carson for Chubb and cash. And I asked him if he could let us know what his team's looking at. He has Hurts, Monty Harris, Allen, Godwin, Cup, Troutman, Carson, Eagles. So he has my cash lineup, which we were going to build, but we don't have to now because Matt's done it for us. Listen, Chubb's usable, he's playable, and he's a guy who's definitely in play for cash. There's no one in that lineup I want to come down from. Like, in order to make that work, I would have to come down from one of those receivers to I'd have to come down from Goodwin to a Cole Beasley, let's say, and then we can go up from Montgomery or Carson up to Nick Chubb, and I don't want to do that. Like, that's kind of where it's at for me. Like, I don't want to come off those receivers, and maybe I'm being stubborn. Maybe I'm tunnel visioned, but for me, that lineup you have in front of you, Matt, that's where I'm going. So I wouldn't come off of Chubb. I don't think you're going to lose if you come off of Chubb. Like, there are multiple ways to hit cash this week. And Chubb, Beasley, as opposed to Godwin, Montgomery should be fine. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a wash. But yeah, I'm not coming off. I wouldn't come off. I'm clearly not coming off this lineup. This is my cash lineup. So Matt's always good at that. For every week, Matt somehow ends up with the same cash lineup I do, even though I don't actually share my lineup. He does a good job of popping into the articles, watching the videos, listening to the live streams, and then being involved in the Bankster DFS Slack chat. Only $3.99 a week, by the way, for a full membership to get all of that for all sports, not just football, everything. And Matt paid for a full year, so he pays less than $3.99 a week. He's paying like $3.30 a week, whatever it is. Like, good stuff. And he's able to figure out what my cash lineup is every single week. It's all there for you. I wouldn't touch it, Matt. I think you're in a good spot right there. Obviously, since that's the lineup I'm rolling with this week as well. And I got to keep my week of cash, my however many straight weeks of cash in alive. Like, I believe my cash lineup this week. I like it, Matt. I think you stay where you're at. I don't know if I'd go to Chubb. I've seen some builds in Slack where they did have Chubb, and I was totally fine with it. Like, you don't have to have my cash lineup for me to go, that's the lineup. But if you're already locked in there, like, I think you're fine. I know Shawnee would tell you a different thing. He would tell you, get to Chubb no matter what. Chubb.
No, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I'm using Chubb and cash, but I like my build.
Where did you spend down to make that work? Where what did you do to get to Chubb that I'm doing differently?
So right now, I have Chase Edmonds in my cash lineup as well.
Which running back did you take out, Carson or Montgomery? Or not?
So you're like this. So my other running back, and my head might explode on this one, is actually Javonte Williams. I have Javonte Williams.
I can't hate it. What's he at, 45 this week? 43?
4,400.
All right, so right in between.
I'm like, I clicked it in, and I'm like, because I actually love him this week, because he actually had, I think he had more touches and stuff last week than Gordon had. That 70-yard run, which was a big boost to his, and he'll be popular. Yeah. I think that Denver by the start of the third quarter is just going to be run, and I think they're going to feed the kid, especially if they get up big.
Yeah.
But right now, like my cash lineup, I got Herbert, Chubb, I got the three receivers we talked about, I got Edmonds. I got the Bengals D right now, so I'm not totally excited about that. But
Dalton, dude, like you can't go too wrong going against Dalton.
And Matt Nagy. They didn't attempt to pass over 15 yards last week. I had to double check that. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Not a single pass in 2021 in the NFL in 2021, and the Bears did not attempt to pass beyond 15 freaking yards.
Who's your tight end?
Right now, Dawson Knox. But I don't think I'm sticking there. I don't like that. I'm probably going down to. I'm probably going to end up down at Troutman.
Wait, what is Dawson Knox? Dawson Knox is more than Troutman?
Dawson Knox is 35. Where is it? 35? Hold on, my computer's.
Are you a closet Bills fan?
No, God, no.
He is 35. Oh my goodness.
with Allen throwing more, Dawson Knox, I
4 targets last week. I mean, that's not terrible, but like, and I'm glad you bring up tight end because let's talk tight end real quick, right? Darren is like a cheat code tight end, but we're not spending $7,600 on a tight end. I like Noah Fant. I think he's going to do really well. You're talking about Denver, right? You're talking about Denver's going to roll on Jacksonville. Jacksonville gave up 11 target. No, Jacksonville gave up a big game, to Farrell Brown. You know, the big five catches for Farrell Brown last week, and Fant had 8 targets, 62 yards. I mean, he's in line for a great game, but only 40. I couldn't get up to him in my cash lineup. I think he's very much in play. Jared Cook is going to be wildly popular. They're going up against the Dallas defense that just got smoked by Gronk. Cook had 8 targets last week as well. I think he's in a spot that we can definitely consider Cook at $3,900 for our tight end. You know, surprisingly, I didn't have Dawson Knox in my cash pool, but we'll slide right past Knox for a second. I was all over Farrell Brown, but he was nicked up a little bit. He should play, but he was banged up a little bit in practice this week. And Jordan Akins is the receiving tight end anyway for Houston. Cleveland, that's your boy, Jordan Akins. Cleveland is, we were going to call him Jordan Akins Goodwin last year. Cleveland is historically bad against tight ends. And so if Houston's going to throw other than Cooks, it could be Akins. Adam Troutman had a 30% target share. It was top 7 in the NFL last week in terms of target share, had 6 targets. Juwan Johnson ended up having the 2 touchdowns, but he only saw 12 snaps, not 12 targets, 12 snaps. Whereas Troutman played like the majority of the snaps and ran the majority of the routes. And another guy that I'm looking at that has entered the pool recently is James O'Shaughnessy. O'Shaughnessy was the guy who was in on snaps for the Jaguars at tight. He had 8 targets last week. That Jacksonville offense, I think, is going to morph into a high-volume passing offense in the way that Cincinnati was last year. Rookie quarterbacks love to look for their tight ends. And O'Shaughnessy ran a route on like 80-something% of the passes that Lawrence threw last week. I think O'Shaughnessy at $2,700 is a guy you can spend down. If, let's say, you prefer going to defense, we'll kind of combine defense and tight end so we can talk about it. If you prefer the Panthers defense at $2,700 over the Eagles, if you're in like my position. So I've got at $3K and the Eagles defense at $2,400. If I heard the Panthers defense, and I like the Panthers at, Jameis Winston's on the other side and he could do full Winston. I think the Panthers secondary is getting better. I think New Orleans definitely outplayed their expectations last week. The Panthers looked good against the Jets, and yeah, it was the Jets, but like I think their defense is getting better. If you like the Panthers defense better than the Eagles or the Colts or something in that range, I think you go down to O'Shaughnessy at tight end and up to the Panthers defense. Otherwise, we're spending down on defense. I do like the Colts at $2,500 because they can get into the backfield, despite the fact I think the Rams are going to throw on them. That doesn't mean the Colts still can't go out and get you like 6 to 8 points, a couple of sacks and a turnover. I really like the Eagles defense. They had 3 sacks last week, turnovers. They did good against probably an overrated Falcons offense. But the Niners do not have their starting running back. Jimmy G is not a great quarterback. They're on the road for the second week, early start game. The Eagles have a very active defense, and so I'm using. I think the Jets make a lot of sense going a bit to rookie quarterback, making his first start in New York. The Jets also have a fairly active front 7, and the Vikings last week in Cincinnati. I know they got thrown on quite a bit, but they also had 5 sacks. And Kyler Murray is going to run around a lot. Yes, I think Arizona puts a whooping on Minnesota, but I don't care how many points they give up. I do think that there's potential for pressure on Murray. If he starts to run around a little bit, he can get sacked a few times. Sacks and pressure leads to turnovers. I don't think Minnesota's like a high-end defense, but if you have to go all the way down to 2,100, I do think they make some sense. And I think that's all where I'm at on defense. And where are those big? The $2,900 Bengals defense. Woo! You spent $2,900 on a defense, Shawnee? Bengals.
Yeah, I'm not.
You got me thinking. 3 sacks.
Yeah.
What's that?
Like I said, I'm not. Yeah. I mean, Matt Nagy's he's just awful. He's just. I like bad. I like the Jets defense. I have a lot of them in GPP. Because their defense is actually not bad. Like they're a solid defense, right? And the Patriots are going to try to run it all day long with Damian Harris. So
it's the first I've ever heard though. Usually we see DVP, defense first position. You're playing DVC, defense versus coach. I like that. That's a new strategy. Defense versus coach. Nagy's terrible. Like Nagy is terrible.
Oh my God. I swear to God, like how in 2021, how do you not attempt to pass beyond 15? How is it even possible?
It's pretty.
I'm like, oh God.
My concern with the Bengals
was killing me. I was like, come on.
My concern with the Bengals defense more than anything is I just don't see the Bears as a high volume passing team. And if they don't drop back to pass a lot, that's going to take away the number of sacks and turnovers that they can get. That's my real issue with the Bengals. I mean, Chicago, listen, it's not the talent. Like, obviously, I like Montgomery, but the receivers are fine. But the quarterback talent's not there. I mean, it is, but it's on the bench. And the coaching talent is definitely not there. So I totally get the idea. I don't know if the Bears throw more than 25 times in that game, and that could be if they just ride Montgomery. $2,900. I'd personally rather use the Cardinals at $2,900. I know they had a huge week last week, and I was all over them, and so maybe I've got this little sense of pride on the Cardinals. But I mean, they had 6 sacks, 3 turnovers. It's because of their pressure, right? They pressure the quarterback. Kirk Cousins, he's not the most mobile of guys.
Chandler Jones is a beast.
But I do think Arizona is going to be very popular defense this weekend. So if in cash that probably won't matter. In tournaments, I do think you're going to have to deal with some popularity issues there. All right, we've done a lot about cash. I think we've already talked about my cash line. I'm just going to throw Matt's back up there again, so I don't have to pop them all into the thing. There's my cash lineup, and I don't think it's going to change between now and kickoff unless inactives when they come out in 19 minutes show up and something random happens. Let's hope not. This is where my cash. I don't want to react too much unless one of my guys is out. I don't see myself changing off of this cash lineup going forward. Hopefully Matt and I and the rest of you all do really well this week with cash. So, all right, we are now way past our time when we normally talk about GPPs, and I kind of want to focus on, I don't want to focus on this game right here. I don't want to focus on this Dallas Chargers game because everyone's going to play it. If you want to be chalky or if you want to be contrarian, don't play every player in this game or overplay your players in this game. I did a video this week on that. Go to our YouTube channel once we go off the air at 12 o'clock. It's like a 15-minute video where I talk about how we can play this game and make it less chalky. But basically, we either overstack the game or we stack a cut or we use one of the running backs. Mike Williams is actually projected to be under 5% this week, which is insane because Jared Cook's supposed to get a lot of the roster percentage. So use Mike Williams instead of Jared Cook. Use Cedric Wilson instead of CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper or with them. Overstack the game. Put 5 pass catchers in there. I count running backs in this game as pass catchers with the quarterback, or use Zeke with Herbert and Eckler and Mike Williams and Cedric Wilson and CeeDee Lamb or something and Keenan Allen, something to that effect, overstack the game. But there are other ways that we can attack this slate where we're not going to have this Dallas Chargers game. First and foremost, as we said at the open of the show, any 1 o'clock start game is going to be contrarian because everyone's looking to the late start games. Philly, San Francisco, the numbers started. That game opened at 45.5 points. It's up to 48.5 points now. That Philly side is really interesting. Hurts especially if Zach Ertz ends up being inactive. I'll be really interested to see the inactives because if he's inactive, because I know he was banged up. Hurts, Goddard, Devonta Smith, run it back with Deebo Samuel, maybe Elijah Mitchell. There's definitely an opportunity there for that. Denver, I like the Denver side of this game. Obviously, people are be on the running game, so just go on the passing side. Go with Teddy Bridgewater. We like KJ Hamler. Sean, you want to talk about KJ Hamler for a minute? Put him up this week, and you're big on Bankster, folks. We'll be, rolling this KJ Hamler kid. I love KJ Hamler. I have him I think I have him in my starting lineup in my season-long team. Tell me about why we like KJ Hamler this week.
So, ownership aside, I think everyone's, Tim Patrick, everyone's going to gravitate towards Tim Patrick or Noah Fant. Nobody's going to play KJ Hamler. Literally, I'm projecting him at basically 0 ownership except for Bankster members. That's where we're at. But KJ Hamler is their slot guy with Judy. Last year, KJ Hamler actually led them in slot targets on the year. So it's an easy little switch. It's an easy little transition. Judy's out. KJ's in. They're going to dial up some shots for this kid. The kid can fly. He might catch 2 passes, but he still might go for 100 yards, right? He's got, and this is Jacksonville, right? Fant is also out of the slot as well. I actually considered just including him because tight ends now are running out of the slot more and more. NFL coaches are finally starting to clue in a little bit. But I think KJ Hamler at his price, he's my dirty slot play of the week.
Dirty.
Dirty.
The dirtiest.
It's the dirtiest of the dirty for sure. But like I said, they're gonna dial up some shots for the kid. Teddy Bridgewater is basically already, he's got something there. He wants the kid to do well. So I think he's gonna feed him. He's gonna 4 or 5 targets. If he grabs 3 and he can take one to the house, we're playing with house money at that point, right? Nobody's going to be using this kid because everyone's going to go play Fant and Patrick. And you actually brought up a stack I have. I'm actually running a Teddy Hamler Fant Williams overstack in the early window because no one's playing Teddy, right, at all. Fant will be popular as he should be because he's in a smash spot as well. But I'm kind of running an overstack with those guys just to see what we might gain. Because like you mentioned too, this is such an easy slate to gain, to leverage, to be contrarian. Play the 1 o'clock window. Play some, right? I
wouldn't play like a ton on the 1 o'clock window though. Like I definitely want exposure to the late games, but get some exposure to that 1 o'clock window, I think.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I feel like the run back for this game should probably be DJ Chark. DJ Chark, man, he had 3 receptions last week, but he had 12 targets. If he could catch the passes that Lawrence is throwing, his air yards were off the charts. And let's not forget, too, that Denver did get thrown on by the Giants. Sterling Shepard had himself a really nice game. Darius Slayton had an okay game. Like, there are avenues for the Jaguars to do something this week. So if you run a Lawrence Hamler Fant with a DJ Chark run back, that's still going to leave you plenty of money if you go with a cheaper defense to go and get some of those other guys in the later window. Now I think if you want to just play the early, like if you just want to play the 1 o'clock slate, this works really well too. You throw McCaffrey in there. McCaffrey, by the way, is going to be wildly under rostered this week, and I'm just going to show you that I think can really work for the early slate. So this would be not for the main slate because now let's just forget the 4 o'clock games and go in and play some of the smaller tournaments on the 1 o'clock only slate. And if you avoid the Rams and probably the Steelers, and maybe the Browns, maybe not even a full avoid, you're going to be contrarian. So you go and play Lawrence, not Lawrence, the Lawrence side. I want the Bridgewater side. Sorry, I had Lawrence in there. I meant Bridgewater. If you have Bridgewater with Hamler, Fant, and a Chark run back, and then where's Teddy B? Hi, Teddy B, $5,400. You run it back, and then you run a series stack of Christian McCaffrey, who's McCaffrey. I shouldn't have to mention you that, and Marquez Callaway. Please, let's not crap on Marquez Callaway. Callaway week only had 2 targets, but he was out there double the amount of snaps as the next highest wide receiver on the team. Like he had twice as many snaps as Deontay Harris. He's a guy that was locked down by Jair Alexander. He's clearly the number 1 wide receiver on the team, and Jameis is going to continue to look for him. Now, you want to continue to you want to run a little bit of chalk now on this slate, okay? Because we've got a fairly contrarian type of a lineup here. Great. Now you can run Chubb across the aisle there. Now, if you want to run both sides of that game, okay, go grab Brandon Cooks in your flex, and you should have plenty of money for a decent defense. I would love to see 3,300 there. Not see math or 35. I wanted those Browns. All right, whatever. You're on the defense out there. That's an early slate, right? Those are all early slate guys, if I'm not mistaken. And those are in the 4 o'clock window. Boop, boop, boop. There's your 4. There's a 1 o'clock lineup right there. That's going to be a little bit contrarian. You're still going to have, but I mean, look at the contrarian though. You still have McCaffrey, Chubb, Fant, who are good players on this slate. You've got that upside with Hamler. You got I will be going into this lineup in a few minutes. In the 1 o'clock only. I'm not going to run this. I don't think this plays in the full slate. I do feel like in the full slate that this has got potential to bust out, even though it's going to have a good game. It's not going to touch, I don't think, what you're going to see in any of those other 4 games, which all have totals of 50 or more. But in the early window, you don't have any games with a total of 50 or more. So let's attack that slate with some contrarian plays because the Rams are going to be the really popular play. The Steelers should be pretty popular. So just don't use them and go in a different direction. And if this hits, you're in the money, especially because people are going to run that Denver running game. So that's one way we can take a look at the early slate and be a little bit different. I love the Callaway McCaffrey play as well. And you're still getting mega chalk. I mean, Chubb is going to be mega chalk, and that's fine. You could do that. And if you want it in your flex, if you didn't want to run back, by the way, if you want to not use Cooks and you're like, well, I don't want the run back in that Cleveland game. I personally do. But if you don't want the run back in that game, you can go use David Montgomery at 6,100. And that's a fine addition to this stack as well. So there's or you can go Cooper Kupp if you want to go a little bit chalky as well. Maybe you don't run Cooks, maybe you run Kupp. I'm going to go with the run back because I like to do that because it's just been shown that run backs work. So that's why we can kind of take a look at the slate and be a little bit different and take advantage of that 1 o'clock slate. And we talk about playing different types of slates and making money doing something different. People just want to play the Millie Maker or the play action or the tournaments with the highest payoffs, but it's a lot easier to win a tournament with less than 1,000 people in it. And so I'm here on the phone. I'm trying to find a slate that makes some sense. So, okay, I'm looking at the early slate only, the 1 o'clock only slate. There is a $2. I like to play a little bit smaller. A $2. It's called the safety. $600 prize pool. That's it. But there's only 356 people in it. Top prize is $150. Did I see that right? $150? $200? What's the top prize? $120. Great. I would take it for $2. I would take $120 if I pop this. And you're only going up against 300 some odd people. And I'll be throwing this lineup in there on that because I think it's contrarian and it makes a lot of sense. And it's got just enough chalk to, if the chalk does go off, it's not going to kill you with the Chubb. I like that. Are there any, and I'm going to clear this off and see if there's a stack that you like, Sean, that might be a little bit off the beaten path this week. That's not this game necessarily. Is there a game that you'd like to take a look at that's a little bit different for GPP purposes?
I gotta say that build's pretty good. I'm a big fan of that build. I'm liking
Thanks,
it.
Sir. Entering it right now. Like you think I'm joking? I'm entering it right now because I don't want to miss out on that. I play too,
As you should. That's a good looking line. I like that. I mean, one thing you got to remember, especially, and this is a perfect slate. If you let's say if you play the full slate, the full day slate, and you play, you have an early stack. What people don't do enough of, and we've talked about this behind the scenes, is pivot late. Is they make their lineup and they stick to it, to their guns, and they don't make adjustments. If you run, say, a Bridgewater, like that Bridgewater stack early, and then you're gonna load, and then you're gonna say have your Ecklers and stuff later. If you're trailing going into that 4 o'clock slate, there are easy pivots. You could go to Tennessee, you could go to Minnesota. You could come off of Eckler or you can come off of Allen, go to Jefferson, right? If you're trailing, and not enough people do that, right? They overlook that. They just make their lineup and they're like, no, I don't want to, man, if I pivot off Eckler, he's going to go for 70 points. Yeah, but if you're trailing, you need to catch up. You're not going to catch up with Eckler at, 30% owned or whatever you might be, right? You need to make that pivot. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the full day slate. If you run that early if you run an early stack, be ready to pivot if you're trailing. If you're in cash or you're doing well, okay, fine, maybe you're rolling it. But if the GPP, what do we want to do? We want to win, right? We want to finish.
I agree with that. You got to take this. It's okay to take a shot. It's okay to not finish first. Like you're trying to finish first. You're not trying to min cash. Min cash is great, but take a shot. If you ride that chalk and like Sean said, you're down. And that Eckler is going to be a wildly popular play, and you're going into those later games, pivot to Elliott. Yeah, okay, so maybe you're bubbling cash or whatever. You're near the top. You can't win if everyone above you has the same player as you. You've got to pivot. Of course, if you're like me and you refuse to check your standings until the games are over, that sucks. So you've got to be smarter than me when it comes to that. I'm not superstitious, but I don't check my standings until the games are over, and it's probably hurt me in the long run. I really should learn to make those pivots because it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, for me, I like the Josh Allen Diggs full stack action there. Maybe throw a little Beasley in there. maybe
you got a run back on that one because you know Doug has them back. I can't make a stack with someone. Is it Waddle, Gesicki? Who do we got?
I kind of was looking at Waddle personally.
I love the upside of Waddle.
Right, like he's got the take it to the house type ability, and I mean could this game be a sneaky shootout? I mean,
it could be. And what I like about this game is because this game is not going to be wildly popular, what you can do is you can then go and take an Eckler and you can go into your flex and you can go take a CeeDee Lamb or an Amari Cooper. And now you've got exposure to the chalk. You've now got exposure to the chalk game.
Yep.
And because you got Eckler and Cooper in there too, they'll both be popular. If you're behind, people, you can then pivot off of Eckler to Derrick Henry. You can pivot off of Eckler. You have to spend up a little bit, but you spend down from Cooper down to Mike Williams, so you can make that double switch. There are pivot points here as well, but you can ride the chalk a little bit because if you're in first and your team's popping, you've got a huge, Allen and the Bills game pops off. You've now got yourself a really good opportunity to take down a GPP because you've got the chalkier guys that people are going to have to now chase you, and so it makes a lot of try to avoid. You don't have to make the pivot at that point.
And people just don't do it. Like if you're doing well, if you're top 10, if that game hits, like you said, keep at you're blocking. You're going to block out 30-40%. There's going to be the guys who do pivot because they know, but who cares? That's whatever. Like that's the beauty about this, and not enough people do it. And Doug, that's perfect. At running the Eckler and then the flex, that's an easy double swap to just about any combo late if you're coming from behind, right? Maybe you can you said get into Zeke, get into Derrick Henry. Like Derrick Henry's probably not, his ownership's probably going to be low among the big boys for running back.
He'll have less than 5% this week.
Probably for sure, and that's what Seattle's. Are we really worried? Are we really that concerned about Seattle's defense? Really?
I don't think it's the defense that they're worried about. I think it's the fact that if Seattle runs away with it, if Seattle starts putting up points the way that Arizona did, Derrick Henry's just going to be game scripted out of the game.
Yes,
and here's a double stack on both ends of this game, if you wanted to. You can double stack this game. So you've got you can overstack. You got Josh Allen with his two players and then the double run back because Gesicki did kind of tear up the Bills last year. You can throw Damian Harris in there against the Jets. He's projected to have a fairly high roster percentage, but no big deal there. You've got your big chalky stack with Eckler, Cooper, and you can run it back and you got another, throwing a cheap defense. This is a tournament lineup right there. It's again, maybe you run this in an early slate and then you pull the Cooper Eckler and you go with Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, and a better defense. Like there's so many, and again, you've got exposure. Let's do that. So for people who want to play just the early slate, right? So maybe you don't want to play the later slate. Okay. So you can pull this up here. If my computer would work at all. Hey, computer, how about working today? Fantastic. So you pull, and so now you're still avoiding that Nick Chubb, what's it called? Chalk. Oh, maybe you can't run Taylor in there. Okay, but maybe you can run Hines. This is where we play around a little bit. Maybe you run Hines from that game. Where's Hines priced at? Anyone got a price on Naeem Hines? There you go, $4,700. We'll get you there. We'll get there. No, we don't want Eckler. Can't use Eckler. There we go. There's the. Okay, now I know what I pulled the wrong player. And you get Kupp in here, and then we're gonna be able to spend up because I was stupid. So now instead of Hines, you got 64. Is that right? Is the math going to work on this? Yeah, 4. So then you run Najee Harris in there, and now you've got yourself a tournament lineup. That makes a ton of sense. And this is if you're playing the afternoon, the early slate. I like this lineup. I keep building lineups I like. That's the biggest problem with doing this show is as we're building lineups, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna play that on the early slate. And now what I like about this too, I mean, first of all, you're looking at Josh Allen, he's got upside for days, and no one's going to be on him this game. But also, what you've got here is you're playing the chalk stack still, like you're playing or chalk, the chalk game. You've got the Indianapolis and the Rams, so it's like you're not. The only thing you don't have in there is Nick Chubb, and okay, so maybe Nick Chubb doesn't have a monster game, and if Nick Chubb doesn't have a monster game, you've now put yourself in a real position to take down a tournament. Because you have just made a couple of pivots, and it's not like you're pivoting stupidly. And I refuse anymore to say what a stupid pivot is because every time I do that, the player that I say was stupid ends up having a monster game. Last week, freaking Chris Manhurts ends up having a good game after I was like, don't play Chris Manhurts. Nobody knows who Chris Manhurts is. Playing a touchdown. It's just something that does pretty regularly.
Take notes. if it's stupid.
Every play I say don't play, you should absolutely put in your line.
Make that line.
Yeah, if they're like the most wild players. All right, it is now 11:30, which means it is time for Sean and I to be terrible hosts. This is why we believe in the no glitz, no glamour aspect of our life, and we start looking at some of the inactives. Big news already. Jamison Crowder inactive. Jamison Crowder is not playing for the Jets today. Elijah Moore is in play. Corey Davis should do well, and I think that helps the two tight ends as well. Croft and Griffin, I think, have Denzel Mims inactive as well. Oh boy. So I'm not saying we should definitely play Elijah Moore, but I am set Moore, who had a lot of looks, a lot of air yards.
I wonder why Crowder. Didn't they just activate Crowder?
Yeah, but he's not playing now. Elijah Moore, $3,000. Wow. All right, there's some plays there. Let's see. Bradley Chubb active for Denver, so that's not good if you're playing Jaguars. He wasn't necessarily supposed to play. Wow. So this is where this becomes very interesting. Let's see. Inactive. Nobody exciting. Zach Moss is active today. He was inactive last week. There are 5 running backs. One of them's a fullback active for the Bills. Boy, I would hate to have to start Devin Singletary and season long this year, like I'm doing as my running back one.
I have Singletary.
Nick Foles inactive. Brashad Perryman inactive. Keelan Cole is active. Forgot about Keelan Cole. Min price, $3,000. Big time downfield threat.
Josh Norman is going to be starting for the 49ers, who was just signed less than 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia.
Hey, look, my brother's popped into chat. He wants us to do this tonight so he can do Bankster after dark. Not sure we're going to be doing that tonight since I'll be at his house. Well, up until nearly kickoff of the late game, I won't have time to be online. Most likely. Who knows? Maybe I'll pop a video up before the game. It's a big game tonight, too. Huge game tonight. All right, let's see. Following some other inactives. Paris Campbell, inactive. Oh, no. Yeah, Paris Campbell, inactive. Pascal and Pittman, that is a good thing for them.
Yeah.
I probably have to go pull Paris Campbell out of some lineup that I have. I'm sure I have Campbell in some lineup somewhere. Let's see. What else do we got going on here? Don't I hate when my brother busts my chops? Nope, I do not. It's not a big deal. I've 43 years there, 42 years of this. I'm kind of used to it. Okay, Zach Ertz active. Paris Campbell, though, is interesting. Let's see. Any other? Will Fuller inactive, which we knew. Marshawn Lattimore out. That's a big one. CJ Gardner Johnson out. That's a big one for Carolina. Carolina passing game makes some sense right now. With Lattimore out. Lattimore had a big week last week. Locked up. Last week, Lattimore locked up. Help me, Devontae Adams. This week, not there. By the way, I guess we'll just spend this whole show arguing with my brother. You were in the womb for nearly a year there, big dog. So that's why.
Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson
not paying attention to me. What's that?
Ramondre Stevenson is out. So
out. Well, he fumbled last week, so why would Bill Belichick would not have to play?
But Bill's not there. Bill's not feeling that. Yeah, no.
Let's see. Jacobs is out. We knew that. I think I'm getting. All right. So J.J. Taylor, though, active. He might get some extra looks, but I think it just means it's going to be the Damian Harris show. All right. Okay. Whew. That was the not massive news, but the Crowder news was surprising. I was a little surprised. Not looking to roll too many Jets today, but
No.
I think Keelan Cole makes an interesting tournament play, especially if you're playing the early only. I'm still spending a lot of time talking about the early. We spent a lot of time talking about the early only because I don't think enough people look at these smaller slates, and there's money to be made there. But also B, that later slate is where everyone's going to play, so we need to show some love to that early slate. And again, playing the early slate at all is going to be a little bit contrarian. The New Orleans game just got really interesting to me with Lattimore being out too. So maybe.
Well, and Josh, how about Josh Norman's going to start against Philadelphia? Like, really? I wonder who. Maybe some.
We're not scared of Josh Norman, are we? Like, I'm not.
Oh, no. I want to target Josh Norman. Josh Norman's I want the receiver
out there
that's going up against Josh Norman. Like, I assume Philadelphia is going to be thinking the same thing. Is it going to be Rieger or Devontae? Which that matchup is going to be? See if we can figure that out here.
Just putting together a build for the early slate again. This could be interesting. You run a couple of Saints, a couple of Panthers. You run out a cheap Jets defense because I can't quit the Jets. And then you go like O'Shaughnessy, right? You can run O'Shaughnessy out there with Hamler. Oh, we're building. Oh yeah, O'Shaughnessy with Hamler. What can I do? Can't. That sucks. Let's say if there was a way you could build Nick Chubb into this lineup. But so you got O'Shaughnessy, Hamler, and then 6,400. There you go. If you can run out Najee Harris again. This again works for an early slate. It's a pivot off of the big chalky game. You run out Najee. You got yourself another stack here that can play. You're playing that New Orleans Carolina game. You're taking advantage of the fact that Carolina is going to go under rostered. You're taking advantage of the fact that Marshawn Lattimore is not going to be there. You got your DJ Moore exposure. If you want to save a little bit more money, you come off Winston. You throw Sam Darnold in there. You want to get real crazy. That gives you a little bit more money to play with. Then now you got an extra $1,000 to whatever you want to do with that. So can't get the Chubb. Can't get the Chubb yet though, but you can play with that as well if you wanted to. So there's a lot you can do with this lineup. A lot of interesting things here.
There's a lot, so many ways to pivot.
Yeah. There's again though, I don't think any of these teams can compete with what's happening at 4:00. So I kind of like the idea of focusing on that 1 p.m. slate and playing around with that. DraftKings has a number of interestingly, like I said, they got that $600 safety out there, but they've got other tournaments that you can play. They've got big field, big prize pool, $100,000 prize pool slates. I'm taking a quick look at FanDuel, seeing what they've got going on for the early slate. They've got some good tournaments available. They've got a $7.77 NFL Rush $300,000 prize pool that is not full. They've got a couple of single entry tournaments. They don't have they do have my $5 small spike, which I love, which is not full. So lots of tournaments out there that you can attack. Single entry, early slate only, and take advantage of everyone looking at that late slate. People are they're just going to play the Rams in the early slate. So a little bit of the Steelers, so just and the Cleveland running game play a little differently.
Hey, don't sleep on Kareem Hunt. The Browns last week, I think both of them had. I'd have to bring it up, but like you could use Chubb and Hunt in the same lineup too if you want to get weird. But Kareem Hunt, don't sleep on him either. I have some Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb together. I have that stack in some lineup.
I like this stack right here. Like this is a stack that I think plays well. And actually, this stack, we talked about this in my video on Friday. Running this stack, Buccaneers, is a really good way to get off the Dallas, Los Angeles chalk. Because we have to remember, while Dallas, Los Angeles has the highest combined game total, The highest individual team totals of the week, the only two teams above 30 points are Cleveland and Tampa Bay. And Cleveland and Tampa Bay are going to have a lower roster percentage than the Chargers-Cowboys game. So if you run a Tampa passing game, and this is what I did in the video, we couldn't get the Browns defense in there, unfortunately. But if you run the Tampa passing game with the Cleveland running game, it fits as long as we're not using Mike Evans. And I don't know why we would at this, the fact that Brady seems to favor Godwin and Brown. What we can also do here is run back with the Atlanta stack, or not Atlanta stack. You run back Calvin Ridley. So you've got the run back. If you wanted to save money, you could run back Pitts. I'm not. I'm going to run back. I'm going to run back Ridley in there because I just think he has the higher upside. Though no one's going to be on Pitts this week. If you put Eagles defense in there, that leaves you enough money to run a Jared Cook. And this is the map I built on the video this week. So this is, if you watch the video, this is not new to you. But you run Jared Cook, and then you have $3,100 to run Cedric Wilson as your last spot. And then this is going to be a fairly contrarian build this week, where you're still getting exposure to the two teams with the highest individual team totals. You are getting a mini stack for the game with the highest game total, and you're getting a defense that I don't hate. So this also makes sense. If you want to run it differently and you wanted to run Pitts instead of Ridley in there, and I did not do this in the video, so this is new content alert. Woo!
Tell your friends.
You get an increased price Pitts. And then look at that. Look how perfectly this works out. This is why the world is missing. You run Mike Williams with Cedric Wilson. You still get exposure to that Dallas game. But now you've got an improved receiver. You got Williams, who has a little more upside than Cook. You do take a hit with Pitts over Ridley, but if Pitts has himself a good game, this works out just fine too. And this is a way that you can go full slate and run a lineup that has exposure and to the highest total game on the slate, but your main two stacks are the teams with the highest individual team totals. So this is a way we can look at some numbers, play with the Vegas odds and the Vegas totals to get ourselves access to games that we might not be thinking of, or to teams that should have higher totals and should put up points that people aren't using. So,
and you won't have to. And the beauty about that is Cedric Wilson and Mike Williams. You're not going to. It's not like you have to pivot off them. They'll be the lower targets in that late window too, right? Like no one's
for sure. Yep.
Mike Williams
probably not going to be able to pivot off of them anyway. There's just nowhere to go with that. I guess you could. Yeah, there's really nowhere else to pivot on this in this as well. Like this is.
I like that. I like. It's like this is a
I'm running the Ridley one, but I don't throw this in somewhere as well because I do think there's an avenue where Pitts has the better game.
I wrote up Kyle Pitts in the dirty slot. Just throw that out there.
I know you did. That's what convinced me to go and take a look at this. I just think there's a way to go with this.
You're playing Marcus. You're playing Callaway, right?
Like a lot of Callaway this week.
A lot of
Callaway this week.
And Pitts essentially is the same type idea. Playing Pitts, right? Like burned everybody last week. All the tight end Callaway. Everyone's going to be off him this week.
Correct. I mean, you want to play a game where you want to start a lineup that's going to look different than what other people are doing this week. And I don't know how much correlation is going to be involved here, but you want to start a lineup that is going to look different because, people aren't going to be looking in these directions.
Let's see if we can find Callaway. Let's see what I got for Callaway.
Do this for your lineup. Like, no one's going to play Henry. No one's going to play Callaway. No one's going to play Pitts. And McCaffrey is going to be very low roster. Jefferson is going to be fairly low roster. Can we make this work? Can I make this lineup work? No. Maybe. In the Jets defense. Can we make
Jefferson? Yeah, Jefferson will go overlooked for sure.
And then you've got your Winston Callaway with your McCaffrey run back. You run Seth Wilson as your third wide receiver. And then you got 3,600 left for a flex. I have not played with this lineup before, so I have no idea if this is going to work.
I got Callaway at less than 3%.
Yeah, no one's going to be on him this week.
No one will be on Callaway. Yeah, no.
Let's see. Give me a cheap wide receiver, $3,600. Oh, look at that. How's that lineup looking? I mean, that's going to have no percentage. And, I mean, you've got McCaffrey, Henry, Jefferson, Pitts. I mean, it doesn't have correlation like I'd normally want because I don't have a Seattle run back. I suppose we could find a way to make DK Metcalf work in this lineup as my Seattle run back. It's DK Metcalf priced at this week.
So you know what you can do? So if you run Metcalf, you can pivot to Jefferson if you need to as your pivot.
Yeah.
I think. Does that work? Is that going to work?
No, I'm 200 short on that. But I mean, you go down from Renfro and you go down, you just punt somewhere else. But that would work as well. So let's see. Let's look at what's available at 3,400. I wish my computer worked faster.
Yeah, I know. You're going to need to upgrade someday.
I know, for all this high volume stuff we're doing. But there's just different ways. Like, it's not hard tournament lineup. It's hard to win a tournament because they need to pop. But, okay. Yeah, okay, I've got that works. You could put in Metcalf instead of Renfro. And I do love me some Renfro. But you can put KJ Osborne in or Donovan Peoples-Jones in. And then you run Metcalf you run Metcalf as your wide receiver. So now you've got your correlation between Henry and Metcalf. You've got your New Orleans-Carolina correlation. You got Metcalf will probably be a little bit chalkier, though I do think Lockett will still carry a higher roster percentage. And then at $3,400, you've got yourself opportunities to look at a KJ Osborne. I do think Isaiah McKenzie's in play. Trent Sherfield was a guy that San Francisco seems to really like. Schwartz, I guess he's active. I didn't see him on the inactive. We're going to have to check that. Did you happen to see the Cleveland inactive list?
No, let me see here. Schwartz.
You could run Keelan Cole at this point. There are players you could run here at this price point. But I'm going to go in and do where's my guy? KJ Osborne here. And there's a lineup. And there's a lineup that's going to be fairly correlated between you don't have Dallas and Atlanta and Minnesota correlation, but you do have your two main stacks. You've got your Tennessee-Seattle correlation. You've got your New Orleans-Carolina correlation. And you've got a roster percentage that's going to be well below 130. That works. Definitely works. Well, Shawnee's checking out the Cleveland inactives to see if we can get word on Schwartz because that will affect Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let's talk about Prize Picks DFS. Prize Picks DFS is one of our fantasy partners. They're essentially prop betting. You put together a lineup card of 2 to 5 players. You pick over and under different statistical categories, and they've got a lot of them. Pass yards, rush yards, you can see right here on the top, receiving yards, and all these other ones. And then if they hit, you win. Now the cool thing about Prize Picks is you don't need to hit all of your picks to win. If you pick 2 players and one of them hits, you're going to get half your money back. If both players hit, you're going to double your money. You go all the way up to a 5-player team. 3 of your players hit 40% of your money back. You're going to double your money with 4 out of 5, and you're going to 10 times your money with 5 out of 5. You can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100 using the promo code Bankster when you sign up. So make sure when you get in there, you get the promo code Bankster. You get a 100% deposit bonus. I loved when I signed up. I only put in for $50. I was done. Should have gotten the free $100, but I put in for $50, got a free $50. I've been kind of playing off that from the beginning. I put in a lot of NFL futures teams, so we're just kind of waiting for the season to go there. So apparently my father has now walked over to my brother's house and it says hi. Hi, Dad. Doing a show, Dad. So let's put together. Did you get any word on Anthony Schwartz?
Hold on. Schwartz is active.
Active. I like Schwartz. He saw quite a bit. So 5-6 targets last week. Team seems to like him. I like him at the low price point, but I also don't think he's going to be needed that much this week. So let's build a Prize Picks team.
And the Browns offensive line, everyone's starting on the offensive line.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know you mentioned there was some concern about the offensive line. Well, now knowing that about them, I think Nick Chubb, 87.5 rushing yards is a pretty good number. I'm going to take the over on that. I think he's going to rush. I hope he rushes for over 87.5 yards. Let's see if there's anyone else that we really like here in the rushing game. I like Najee Harris. I think he's going to get the volume to go over 72 rushing yards. I don't like betting unders because unders mean unders. Once you go over the total, you're kind of done. Whereas with the overs, there's always a chance, and I'm big on there always being a chance for my guys. So, taking a peek, see if there's any other numbers that I really like. And you can run all sorts of different games on here. I don't love any other numbers that I want to jump on. You know what? I actually want to jump on one other number, and that's the Jalen Hurts rushing number. He's rushed for 60 or more yards in all but one of his starts. I think I'm going to take a look at the over there. And as you can see now, as I've started to build my team, I've got Chubb over 87.5, Najee over 2.5, and Hurts over 49.5 rushing yards. I could do a power play lineup where I have to hit all three. I get 5 times my money. I can do a flex play. If I get 2 out of 3 right, I get 1 1/4, 1.25 times my money. Or if I get all 3 right, I get 225% of my money back. So I don't like 5-player teams, though. I like to shoot for that 10x. So let's head on over to fantasy points. We play fantasy. You can click on fantasy scores or single stat DFS. That's what is really great about this game is that you can play it how you want to play it. You can look at what you want to look at. Now, you said that Josh Norman was starting for the 49ers, and so let's see. If Devonta Smith is going up against him, he should have himself a pretty good game. So we think the over 13 fantasy points on him. And let's look a little further down. Who else do we really like today? Let's go take a peek at. They do have a KJ Hamler prop. I don't like that's too high. I don't want 10 points. I mean, I think he goes over, but I want a bigger number there. Let's see. Noah Fant, 6 for 50. I think we can go. I think we can look elsewhere. Where else can we go with this? You know what? Let's use the news of Marshawn Lattimore going out, and let's take advantage of a DJ Moore's prop at 15.0. Let's say he's going to go over that 15-point threshold. Actually, you know what? No. We've been talking up Callaway. Let's go Callaway. 9.5 fantasy points, 5 catches, 50 yards in a game where I think they're going to have to throw. I think that's just way too low of a number. What do you think about this? What do you think about this, Shawnee? How do we feel about this? Harris over 72.5 rush yards, Chubb over 87.5, Hurts over 49.5 rush yards, Devonta Smith over 13.2 fantasy points, and Marquez Callaway over 9.5 fantasy points. Does that feel like a winner to you?
I like that. Yeah.
Throw that in there for $5.
I can get him.
And if I hit 5 for 5, I make $50. Can't go wrong there, folks. Don't forget, you can head over to prizepicks.com. It downloads on your phone. You can use the computer. And when you use the promo code Bankster, 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And it's honestly a lot of fun. It's got all this different sports on there. The other day they had one golf, and one of my friends plays occasionally on the professional disc golf tour, and she was giving me some disc golf plays, which of course I'll throw your way. It was a lot of fun. If you're into the video games, they've got the video games. They have every sport on here. Prize Picks is so much fun. And Bankster DFS members, we do put our Prize Picks in a spreadsheet occasionally. But we do have a Prize Picks section in our Slack chat, which we do update every single day with our Prize Picks plays. And if you want to become a member, banksterdfs.com, $3.99 a week at banksterdfs.com. We do everything over there, Sean. Can you? $4 is ridiculous. Charge more.
Yeah,
we should raise our prices.
Yeah, right.
Fair. But even if you sign up today, your price will never go up. I could raise it to $20 a week, and you still would pay $3.99 a week if you sign up today and don't cancel your membership.
Right.
Can't beat that.
Pharaoh Brown is active for Houston. I don't know if you mentioned that. I don't know if I think it was questionable, but
boo. I was hoping he was out so we could play Akins. I still think Akins is the guy to own in this game. I think he's the guy you want to go after. Sure. But I just rather go Troutman. Honestly, I'd rather use Troutman in his target share. He's going to run the routes or O'Shaughnessy. Honestly, I've come around on O'Shaughnessy. If I could find a way to spend up on my cash lineup, I would just use O'Shaughnessy in cash and spend up somewhere else. I just don't have a spend up spot to do it. And I like Troutman's value too, but O'Shaughnessy is a great spend down option at $2,700.
Yep.
But I think Akins is good to use in tournaments. I think he's a tournament play. Any final thoughts, Shawnee? We're heading towards the end of this train ride.
The Browns get shredded underneath, right?
What's that?
The Browns get shredded underneath, right? I mean, I realize Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are anomalies, but shredded them underneath until something changes on the defense that they don't target tight ends, target slot guys against the Browns until further notice.
Yep, that's why I like Akins and Cooks as run backs on a Cleveland stack. I think they're going to go overlooked, and I think they're people we can take a look at. I haven't updated this in a while, Sean. I think we need to make the update here. I don't know. It's probably like 150 by now. I don't know. There we go. Browns mentioned about 150 right now. We're somewhere. Huh?
100. Oh, yeah. No,
your Browns homer mentions. No.
Yeah.
Now your Browns homer.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's
this week is the week, though. This is the week. Listen, it's not talking about the Jets with Gouda every single week.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I can't even blame Gouda. I'm the one who brings them up every week. It's on me. I'm the one who talks about the Jets. It's the
Jets and the Jets and the Browns for you, between Gouda and me, right? It's the.
I don't know about my team.
Worse, it could be Patriots fans.
I mean, we love the Patriots, Big Matt. We respect you as a Patriots fan. And I know Big Matt's a huge Boston fan. I don't want to. I love Big Matt, so I'm not looking to disrespect the guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not Team Patriots. Sean, give me one thing that we're going to be talking about in Slack chat when these games are over. What's one thing that we're going to be talking about and be like, wow, what's going to shock us this week?
K. Hamler, 100 yards.
Dude, you stole mine. I was going to go, wow, KJ Hamler goes off this week as a top 5 receiver for the week. We're going to all be like, oh, look at that. I will say the thing that we're going to talk about in Slack this week is, guys, let's not let 1 week bias us too heavily. When Marquez Callaway has a decent week, Kyle Pitts has a decent week, and the guys who kind of screwed us last week come back and have relatively decent weeks. We also could be talking about the fact that let's not overreact to 1 week and the fact that maybe Elijah Mitchell wasn't the guy to own in San Francisco. That remains to be seen. I do, again, think he's a tournament play. But I think the most important thing we're going to be talking about this week in Slack after the games are over is all the green screens that we're going to see, tournament wins, and hopefully what we're going to see is the members of Team Bankster are going to come back and go, wow, man, thank you guys for directing us to the right tournaments, the under 1,000 entry, single entry, 3-person entry tournaments. You know, I didn't win $1 million today, but I took my $2 and turned it into $80, and I took my $5 and turned it into $200, or my $9 and made $1,000. Like, I think we're starting to see the right contest selection. I think we're going to see those bankrolls building, and who knows, maybe something like what happened with Tay Wagner, our MMA guy, over the weekend. Played some college football on Friday using the player pool. Can't remember if it was Brandon or Troy who put out the player pool on Friday night, and ended up popping for $7,000. So those things happen. And the expectation is going to be that at the end of the day, we're going to see, wow, doubled my bankroll, at least because cash games were popping. And that's what we do. We hit those cash games. Then we 60-40. It's 60-40 living, 60% cash, 40% GPPs. Play those low field, low entry limit GPPs and build that bankroll. Ladies and gentlemen, for my buddy, big number 55, Sean Goodwin, my name is Doug Shane. This has been Bankster DFS NFL live before lock week 2. Please do not forget, head on over to prizepicks.com, enter the promo code Bankster, get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100, minimum $20 deposit over at Prize Picks, and head on over to banksterdfs.com/subscribe. $3.99 a week, get you access to everything that we do. Cover all the major sports, all the niche sports, all the college sports, daily player pools, the best Slack chat in the business with a multitude of channels, and award-winning articles from FSWA award winners like myself and Jeff Kaminsky, and a host of future FSWA award winners and the best team in the business. # Team Bankster. Shawnee, great show. I loved having you here this week. I appreciate you jumping in for Gouda, and you did an amazing job. And let's kick some ass this week.
Absolutely. Good luck, everyone.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Daily videos, like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon, banksterdfs.com.